we'll have our three speakers here for questions. Really interesting. Tony, you talked about it being a small world. I don't know if Tony's there. Katrina, I was born in Athlone. I was reared in Dundalk, and looking forward to going back up to Dundalk tomorrow. I didn't realise one of my good friends, Billy Hines, was involved in KPMG and Digital Analytics. We shared an office together many years ago. We shared a bedroom together many years ago. So it's a really small world. Listen, thank you so much for your presentations, Tony and Andre and Katrina. Excellent. JJ had to leave us early. Can I just ask the first question, if I may? How do you see automation tangibly reshaping construction in the next, say, 5 years? That's an open question. Do we have a mic? We do? Yeah. Thanks.
It's like that moves around. I suppose for us, I think we've seen what it's done so far, and it's been an eye-opener, really. Automation is a key part, I think, of the driver industry going forward. And it's a case of, it's not, can you do it? It's kind of, I think it's most businesses really do have to think about it, especially in manufacturing, how well they do it. And in construction as well. I mean, we've seen an enormous amount of advancement across the globe. And sure, if you think about what's happening to our industry, like in our business, the average age profile is 56 years of age of the average steel fixer in the world. And they're saying that, another 4 years, 5 years is a major problem. But that's in lots of trades, the blue collar business and trying to get people to come out on site and do physical activities. If you don't have automation assisting them, the capability on a larger scale is certainly dwindling. So as an industry in construction, we really do have to think about how we will do it instead of will we not do it.
Okay. Any questions from the floor? We want to get some participation if we can from the floor. So surely would you have any questions for our speakers? I was wondering about how you fill the insulation in the cavity. Now I know you drill the internal leaf, is it?
Yeah, so it's drilling from the internal leaf. So essentially after the superstructure is constructed,
yes,
we then come in, the floors, joists and the partitions are installed. So that's all lifted by crane. So it's prefabricated. Crane comes to site. While we're removing the printer off the site, we have the crane there as well to install your partitions and the timber roof truss. So essentially once the superstructure is sealed, the envelope is sealed, we can then come in, drill into the internal wall. So we start from the bottom up, and then it's a pumped insulation and goes into there. So the main reason we use a pumped insulation really is to avoid any conflict with the wall ties in between. And so we also don't really want to be pushing down rigid reinforcement while the material is still fresh. So while the concrete is fresh, we don't want to do anything that disturbs it during the process. So the easiest way for us to go about it, it's definitely not the only way to go about it, but the current way we do it is by using the pumpable insulation.
Okay. Do we have the mic, the roving mic there? Can we have someone with the roving mic? Do we have the mic for questions? Right. Okay. Do we? Okay. So, cost. From a cost of perspective, the preliminary cost will be much higher. The setup. To what extent? How more cost efficient is it to 3D print?
Yeah. So at the moment, we're cost competitive with different building methodologies. So it's something that, due to the sort of newness and the not very much mature age of the technology, it's a very good place to be in at the moment, being cost competitive. So if we look at materials and the actual building of the structure, we're slightly more expensive than using a traditional crew. But because we're saving time on site, we're saving preliminaries, we essentially shortening the overall construction timeline. That then gets us to be essentially at the same price as what it currently is traditionally. So with new advancements in the technology, receiving more market uptake in the next couple of years, we definitely see a drop in the equipment price. So at the moment, it's still very much one company that's dominating the equipment manufacturing. So the more companies get involved, the cheaper the equipment will become. The labor aspect, initially when the technology started off in construction, you were very much looking at very specialized and trained, basically people with PhDs and masters in specifically engineering and material science working on this. As it gets more sort of a commercially applied, we essentially can use anyone from a background in construction to anyone, basically a student coming from university and with a willingness to learn. It's very simple to teach someone to essentially operate the machinery.
Yeah.
So we're also working on developing a course for teaching operatives on how to operate the machinery. So that's in the future plans. So basically then going away from using specialized labor, specifically trained and having degrees in very high sort of academic fields, moving away to more generalized labor, because we know we want to make the construction industry attractive again.
Yeah.
So we do that with automation and utilizing new technologies. And that's essentially where it's heading, and utilizing more sort of generalized labor that's not specialized leads to cost reductions as well. And then obviously the equipment reducing in overall cost, that'll get you down to where we want to be, much more efficient and cheaper than the way it's currently built at.
So it is scalable.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely
Yeah,
scalable,
definitely.
yeah. But there's so many other advantages, and of course we're not transfixed on capital costs. It's whole life costs. It's more sustainable, using less labor, speed of delivery, all the good stuff.
And
Okay.
it's robust. It's solid concrete. So you're looking at robust structures that will last much more in excess of 100 years. So in terms of overall life cycle carbon analysis, it's efficient due to the high thermal mass of the material as well. We essentially can use that to reduce the amount of operational energy throughout the structure's life cycle, which is also great for the sustainability aspect.
Okay. We have a roving mic. Any questions? Yes, we have one question from our colleagues in KPMG. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Excellent presentations. Or challenges that you've experienced?
Would you go first, Ian?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, I suppose many companies have had to start to plan for this future, and obviously people like yourself are there to assist and give them very good quality advice on how to do that. But there is an accumulation of things that are coming down the track that not so easy for companies who are SMEs to try and find the time, number one, to be able to plan that activity, put it into your business, assign somebody in the business to do so, and then carry out that activity efficiently and regulatory as is required. So I do think that what you've done and what Katrina and yourselves and the members of the cluster have done is start that ball rolling and try and identify their carbon and where they are. So the establishment of the baseline is critical, I think, and people should be doing that right now. They shouldn't be trying to wait for 6 months until, really speaking, you're getting letters in the post and say, this is now a report. Well, a company like next year, you have to put a note in your accounts as to what you have to do with it, and can you start to prepare, because there will be an avalanche of expertise required, number one, which is building, but I don't believe companies are as aware as they should be. And definitely there should be a lot more publication of the requirement. At the moment, it's kind of like a soft approach that, you know, we're going to do what you want this year, put in your own kind of numbers, and next year you'll be based on that, or maybe based on that. There should be more information, certainly, from the regulatory bodies and government coming out and letting people know what's happening. You know, worldwide we have a problem with climate change. That's very, very evident from last Friday week. If we look at the rest of Ireland, there's still 35,000 houses out there without power. You know, so we can see clearly that we have a problem. It needs to be addressed. The fines that the government is facing, if we don't achieve our goals, are far in excess of the cost it would be to start a marketing campaign and get people prepared. So I do believe there's going to be a lot of people rushing to the table at the end of the year into next year. And in terms of then preparing within their businesses to try and achieve what you have to achieve, it's going to be substantially difficult. I mean, in our business, we've started that journey. We've looked at employing somebody specifically to do CSRD. So it's actually a role in the business now for us to assist the likes of our advisors, provide them with the information required, and then do the audits and process to bring us to a level of where we need to be. But yeah, I agree. I think you're dead on in terms of the assessment, and it's a very good question. Like, people need to start preparing, and they do need a lot more information and knowledge in the general from it too.
Yeah, so firstly, I agree with Tony as well. So the information needs to be more readily available and be sort of given to the SME companies. It's not something everyone is definitely aware of. It should be made more publicly available in a sense. And then sort of, we all know about the carbon, you know, your carbon auditing and everything that's going to be taken in effect in the next couple of years, in the next couple of months. So every time we sort of talking about, you know, concrete's normally seen as the bad guy in the room in terms of talking about sustainability and carbon embodiment. So that's sort of where we want to focus on and show, you know, there is advancements taking place in terms of cement and concrete research. The problem that we're really facing in terms of that is regulation. So essentially, it's not under the materials regulation currently allowed to essentially use recycled materials or different cementitious binders to get your material certified under EN 206. So currently, you still need a specific prescribed proportion of your material to be OPC, so Portland cement, which is the material in your concrete that gets you the highest amount of carbon embodiment. So there is a lot of material alternatives available out there that is exactly the same, probably even better performance than OPC. The problem is, you know, it's not regulatory. So you can't use it in a structural capacity because it's not tested and proven. But so that's essentially the challenge we're facing in terms of the sustainability aspect of it. Yeah, so we're trying to be competitive in terms of that. That's why we moved away from traditionally in the 3D construction printing industry. The houses are being built with mortar, which is essentially concrete without large aggregates. And what that basically means is, because you don't have large aggregates in your material, you have to replace that with something, and that volume gets replaced with cement. So it has massive amounts of cement in the mix, which means massive amounts of carbon. That's why when we started looking at utilizing this technology in a construction capacity within Ireland, it was an absolute no-brainer to move to concrete instead of mortar, because we're reducing already, just by introducing aggregates into our material, we're reducing our carbon embodiment up to 50%. So that was one way that we overcome it. We have overcome it. Obviously, to move into ourselves into a better position would be to have the regulations in such a way that we can use alternative materials that is not, the traditional currently being used.
Okay. Quick question for Katrina. You mentioned some of the grants available. What supports are out there for, say, the micro SMEs who want to maybe automate one of their business processes?
Well, I think the innovation voucher with Enterprise Ireland has now expanded. It was €5,000 for the innovation voucher.
Right.
Now it's €10,000
Very
as
good.
well. So I suppose, we're always looking at what is the problem, and then there's always a grant to match that problem. So it can depend on that level, the scale of what you want to achieve, how many partners, or do you want to do it just with the research association as well. So there's a couple of lines there in terms of the checklist, what you want to achieve. Some companies want to use the grant aid maybe through European partners as well, because it can act as an enabler maybe for expanding business markets abroad into Europe as well. So they're keen to work on that front. But obviously through Enterprise Ireland and IDA, there is a full list there. Sometimes it can be bringing together a consortium, because it is, again, go back to this interdisciplinary nature of what we want to achieve as well. And that can be a bit more complex, but within the cluster we can play a role in terms of trying to identify the best partners with you and try to bring forward that grant as well. The innovation partnerships are a really good one. I know that it's been mentioned as well around the skills piece. They deal with a lot of companies and they say we're actually too busy to think about the innovation that they might have explained that they wanted to pursue. But a lot of the time with the innovation partnerships, you can actually still progress almost in parallel with your business strategy as well, and bring in some of that expertise as specialists around an area like sustainability, like digital twinning, that will work with you alongside the company, but it won't impact maybe your ability to get on with the day-to-day in terms of the operations as well. And I think those avenues are probably not tapped. They're not underutilized, I think, by many companies at the moment.
During my time in TU Dublin, I worked on a number of innovation vouchers, innovation partnerships, and disruptive technology innovation fund applications, and we've had a degree of success. I'm sure your TUS colleagues in Athlone would have that, and Limerick and in Clonmel and so on. Listen, thank you so much for bringing this to an end this morning, because obviously you're all very busy. Thank you so much for the excellent presentations that we had today. I think this might have It's been a great start to the series. People here in person and people that are online. So we're delighted with the overall outcome of the event. We move to April, and we're looking at smarter blueprints. So this is really about, Tony, you mentioned using the Tekla data. Leandra, you mentioned using the BIM model. So really using that initial design information and bringing it right through the process and leveraging its potential even into additive manufacturing, as Leandra talked about. So we're here really talking here about AI algorithms to generate multiple design alternatives based on what the designer inputs into the system, to advancements in BIM, automating clash detection, automating template development in BIM standards and so on. So that's for our next event, and we'll be announcing the date and the venue shortly. What can I take away from today? A lot. I learned so much. I didn't realize the amount of the connections you had more locally and so on. Sustainability was a big message today. I think speed, efficiency, a huge message today, and I think Katrina, the power of collaboration. This is why we started the Alliance 25 years ago. This is the 25th anniversary of the Alliance. Started on the 19th of November 1999 on Bolton Street, and we're still here, and we're still relevant, and we wouldn't have been here without your support throughout all those years. So this year, and indeed last year, we had great success with our training. As you know, many of you attended our events last year. We focused on digital skills, and so through the great work of the CitA team, particularly Daria, we had a fantastic year in regards to training output. We're going through procurement at the moment. We've secured funding for 25. but we've just gone through the TNA, which is the training needs analysis. So we've gone out now to procure over 100 courses, and we hope to advertise, Daria, in March? Yeah. So we're looking forward to another fantastic year. This year also, we're going to have the bin gathering back. And this is going to be the 7th iteration of the gathering, and we're going to hold it in Dublin. And what we're talking about here, we're not just looking back, we're looking forward, realizing the vision and embracing automation. So that's the focus of the gathering for 2025. We've had amazing events in the past, and we're sure we're going to have another amazing year in 2025. Thank you so much for taking the time. I hope you really resonated with today, because automation is not something in the future, it's actually here and now, today, and we need to really look at it seriously. We're looking forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you to our sponsors, Suzanne, Paulina, Favor, and Orla and Daria. Amazing backroom team. Thank you so much for all your time. Safe home. Thank you.